What's up, guys? I just finished riding the Raccoon Mountain Trails in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I'm going to do something different for my YouTube video. And I usually do tech videos or bike reviews. I'm going to try something new, so let me know if you guys like this kind of thing. It's kind of a video log. I'm going to call this Stories from the Trails and Lessons Learned. So I'm up here on a conference for about 4 days, and I brought my mountain bike, and there's some really good riding up here in Chattanooga, and I just finished the ride. And this ride was a technical or mechanical nightmare to start off with. It actually started last night. I had a noise coming from the rear of my bike, and it took me an hour to find out what was going on. Finally, I realized there was some sand or grit or something in my free hub. It was making a terrible noise, so kind of sprayed it out with some air and put some lube down it inside of it, and it seemed to work. So, you know, I thought my mechanical problems were solved, and then 5 minutes into the ride, I flatted, and I'm riding my Giant Trance, which is a bike that I typically only use for out of state. It's kind of overkill for Florida, and so I do quite a few trips during the year up to the mountains, and that's the bike that I use. So I don't run tubeless on this bike because it sits in the garage a lot, and I just don't feel like trying to maintain the stand solution. And it's not a race bike, so if you get a flat, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't ruin your ride like it would in a race. You know, typically just run tubes in it. And so 2 lessons learned there is, you know, tubeless rocks, and I probably wouldn't have had a problem because I just nailed a square edge rock and just pinched it really bad. I've tried to patch the tube. I couldn't even get a patch on it. It was just shot. And the other lesson is, you know, you got to run higher pressure when riding in really rocky stuff. The Raccoon Mountain Trails in Chattanooga really aren't that technical. There are some rock gardens, and this was a pretty chunky rock garden that I was going through, and again, just hit a square edge rock really hard. And so, you know, in Florida, the soils are a little bit softer, and this time of the year kind of wet, so I run low pressure, which I usually don't have a problem with, and I was running my Florida pressures up here and just didn't work. You know, that's a lesson learned there. Don't try to run too low pressure, especially if you're running tubes. And the other thing is, I only brought 1 spare tube, and had to put that in the bike the first 5 minutes of the ride. So the whole ride, I didn't have a spare tube, which kind of sucks because you're really taking it easy for a while, just, you know, nervous about pinching it again and just totally killing your ride. So I did, you know, air it up pretty high. I didn't have a problem the rest of the ride for the tube, but I mean, I was, you know, about 20 minutes, a little bit more of ride time into the ride, I had something happen that, I mean, never happens, and that is my rear brake pad like fell out of the bike. It has the cotter pin, and I just got a really bad noise coming from the back, and pulled over, and the pistons were sticking out. The brake pad was just, one side was gone, the spring was gone. Never had that happen before. So I mean, I was like, what in the world's going on? And a guy was coming by, and you know, I just asked him if there was a local shop nearby that he'd recommend, and he was finishing up his ride and actually gave me one of his brake pads. He said he was, you know, his brake pads were almost done, and he was going to go get some new brake pads this week. So he literally gave me one of his brake pads and his spring and his pin. So guy's name was Brad. So Brad, if you ever watch this video, dude, you rock in a big way because you saved my ride. You know, a lesson there is, man, if you can help someone out on the trail, it can go a long way. What goes around comes around. And it's really awesome to have a mountain bike community where guys help each other out. So that was a big thumbs up to you, Brad, out there for helping me out. So, you know, these and let me show you these brakes. And I really, after this happened, I just realized that this design is you know, I really wish Shimano would put the bolt on all those. A lot of the Shimano brakes have a bolt going through, and there's a cotter pin on the other side. This is just a cotter pin, so obviously this pin just worked its way out and caused the brake pad to come out. So you'll see I have a Cool Fin pad here. This is the one the guy gave me on the trail, and my standard pad is not the Cool Fin pad. So fortunately it saved my ride. I was able to ride for another hour and a half, so that was really awesome. Usually when I travel on bike trips, I bring my toolbox, which has extra brake pads and tubes and all that. I tried to keep this simple since, you know, it's a conference and it wasn't like primarily a bike trip, even though I'm going to get probably 4 rides in this week. But, you know, the lesson there is don't be underprepared. Anything can happen on a bike. So, you know, bring all your stuff. And, you know, it's a really good idea if you're going on an epic ride, if you drive more than 20 minutes, I'd bring at least 2 tubes. You know, if you have to use one, you don't want to kind of be sketchy the rest of the ride thinking you don't have any backup tubes and have to walk out. So, you know, the lesson there is be prepared. If you ever get to Chattanooga, the Raccoon Mountain Trails are really good. A lot of fun, flowy stuff. Soils are hard. There's some rock gardens. There's some good climbs. And if you do the trails and you ride a trail called High Voltage, which I think is kind of new, go clockwise around the lake, which is the downside. That's I went up it today, and that's a brutal climb, especially at the top. It gets really steep. But you know, I passed guys coming the other way, so that's obviously I didn't have the local knowledge on that trail. But I'm gonna try to do it again this week and go down High Voltage. But again, really good ride. You could probably ride there 3 hours or more, and I didn't cover all the trails. I only had a couple hours, especially after my mechanicals. So anyway, to kind of wrap up this video log, you know, mountain bikes are a lot of fun, but there are days when things happen, things go wrong. You know, if you are prepared and you have some, you know, good mechanical skills, you know, those days are, you know, not very common, but anything can happen. I mean, I've ridden with guys that have, you know, broken derailleur hangers 30 minutes into a 5-hour event. You know, I've broken chains, you know, so again, bringing the right stuff is a good thing to do. You know, bring a couple tubes, maybe a chain link. If it's an epic ride, an extra set of brake pads. Not like your brake pads are going to come out. I mean, I've been riding over 20 years and never had that happen. But if it's wet, you can destroy a set of brake pads on a long descent. So that's probably a good thing to bring in your Camelback. So again, you know, be encouraged if you ever have a really bad day on a mountain bike. They're kind of few and far between. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this little video log. Again, give me a thumbs up if you like it, and throw a comment in there if you think this is you know, worth doing, these kind of stories from the trails. So hey, thanks for watching.